All right. So this video, I'm going to start preparing this for Substance Painter. So I'm going to do some sculpting in ZBrush, maybe do a new material asset with a Substance Sampler. So I'll start by exporting out the different parts. Also, anything else I want to do any sculpting on? Seems I already exported that one earlier for some reason. Just ignore that. Do I want to do anything with these? Unless they're going to be stiff enough, they're probably not going to be able to put any wrinkles into that. Only reason I'm doing anything with the chainmail here and here is just so I can make the wrinkles on the two sides less symmetrical. Also want to export just some shapes that the rest of this will be sort of constrained by. Yeah, something that, this way I don't have to worry about the wrinkles I sculpt going past the geometry already exists. That's all that's going to be for. Oh, what I call this? It in, and now I can put my plug in. You can't even see that probably. Z plugin and subtool master, multi-append. There we go. Make sure I press X so I can keep these parts here symmetrical when I sculpt them. Most of the details on this I'm going to fake with materials. I just want to create something that kind of matches the shape I create down here, so it looks like it continues through his whole body. So that's what I'm trying to do right here. Build it up and smooth it down. Oh, I forgot to export the eyes. No, I didn't forget to export the eyes. What the heck? Oh, I just haven't turned off. Forgot. Turn that layer off. There we go. I just want a little subtle wrinkling around the eyes so it doesn't look too cartoony. Just, ooh, that's too much. So I'll carve in and then smooth it out. So just little suggestion of organic shapes happening, but they'll all be smoothed down. They'll just barely be there. Just making it lumpy. Problem with corners, they pinch. You can see those little corners right here. It's kind of hard to really get rid of that. You want something to be generally smooth and round. Fortunately, they're on the back side of the eyes. You're less likely to see them. I just want subtle little unevenness in here. Nothing massive. Nothing, incredibly distracting. Just little things that make it look slightly less planned, if that makes any sense. The snail shell's gonna be a lot of fun, I'm betting. Start by masking off one of the spiral bits right here, just to make it a little easier to work with. I better turn off everything else, just make it easier to see what I'm doing. There we go. This may need some more subdivisions. And this way, by masking off the bits I don't want to sculpt on, I can make the different parts of the swirl look independent from each other. There we go. Smooth it down a little bit so it's not quite so rough looking. But now just a little texture on the surface. Not bad. Let's see, cloth. Where is the cloth? There's the cloth. I just want to add some folds in here. And because this has already got the UVs done, I should be able to go to polygroups, auto group with UV. Check and see if that worked. Yep. I can mask everything else except for this bit right here. So Control, drag over that, then bring everything back. There, bring in some of the folds that I lost when I kept fiddling with my end cloth settings. There. Didn't take much. Just add a little bit more texture to that. The arms, and the size a bit. There. Add a bit more randomness to that. There. Now they're not quite so symmetrical. I want to do the same thing for the legs. Jumping back and forth between my different levels. It's easier to smooth things out at the lower level than it is at the higher level, but it's easier to create a nice sharp corner at the higher level. If I want to cut into it, I do it high. And if I want to smooth it out, I bring it back down low. This is not fabric, this is chainmail, so I'm not expecting really sharp corners. It's not going to wrinkle like silk or something like that. I just want to have some bagginess to these pants. So I'm going to smooth it back down a little. There. Now they're not the same on both sides. Now, before I do anything else, I like to bring these back into Maya, readjust the UVs in case the shape got distorted too much for the current UVs to handle, and then bring it back again into ZBrush. So I'm going to start doing that. Start with a head, into my data, and this is M01, it's Z01. So I forgot to put the M on that one. I could also at this point start, using higher resolution models in Maya, but I'll be honest, these are high enough, I think, for what I'm doing. This one, I might export to this slightly higher level. I'm going to delete the lower one and export this one instead. And make sure I save my Z tool. Snail Knight in there. Now, if I go to my data folder, I probably see a bunch of stuff in here I don't need. The MTL files. If I see an MTL file, I can just get rid of that. Because if I don't, it's going to bring it back into Maya with that material on it, and I'm going to have a bunch of extra materials I don't need in Maya. It's just going to make a mess. All right. These ones I don't need to worry about because I didn't do anything to those. All of this stuff right here, I have replaced new ones. My data folder. The arms. Oops, wrong one. That's chainmail, not limbs armor. This is the fabric layer, I guess. Good. There's snail eyes. I also definitely want to not forget to smooth these as I bring them in. Otherwise, I'm going to forget about it. Display, soften edge, snail layer, snail shell, and the snail tail. All right. So grab all this, my UV editor, and see if any of these need to be unfolded some more than they currently are. These are the bits that I messed with. The rest of it, I think, is just the eyeballs. So I might as well just grab everything except the eyes. And what I like to do in a case like this, instead of trying to unfold everything, I right-click and then go to UVs. Then I shift less than, and it deselects the outside. I unfold the inside. And I shift drag. Oops. Make sure I'm using UVs. Shift drag over everything. That selects just the outside. I deselect the eyeballs. Unfold that. That unfolds just the outside. I think it'll be easier if I select everything over here except the eyeballs, actually. There. So UV, less than, unfold the interior, shift drag over it, unfold the exterior. And I switch back and forth until everything looks smooth again. These apparently did not put in my snail layer. Not you, this one. Check my checkers. Actually, because I sculpted so much on these parts right here, I should probably just unfold them, scratch, just be on the safe side. Just because they may have gone stretched out a whole bunch. Okay, I didn't make much of a difference. Good. How about you? No. All right. Just make sure that nothing got too close to anything else. Maybe hit the layout again. I do not want my shells touching each other, my UV shells. Don't think I did. Well, I might have done some shape changing to these two parts right here, so I might as well just go ahead and unfold those just to be on the safe side. I see that made some changes there. All right. Save scene as. I want to bring these back into ZBrush again, at least the ones that I changed, and replace what ZBrush is currently using before I export my displacement map. Let's be MO2 now. I don't need to worry about the other stuff they export. I'm not doing anything with those in ZBrush. Those are just there as sort of reference points of what I could or couldn't sculpt beyond. All right, so now I can re-import. Just make sure I am in the right layer level. I mean, yeah, all right. Import, and I'll replace this object with the one that has the correct UVs. So snail head. Import chainmail arms, MO2. Import chainmail legs, MO2. Cloth, MO2. Where are you? There you are. Here we go. And I'm going to resave this. I'm just going to save over the old one. And I'm going to hide everything that I don't want to group together. So all these will be in the same material. They're going to need the same displacement map. So back to Z plugin and find my multi-map exporter. I might as well do the normals as well. So I have my normals and my displacement. 4K map. I'll merge them and export options. The displacement map. 32-bit, that's going to have funny. Going to start from subdivision level 1, which is what I want. All right. And the normal map. Smooth the normals, flip G. There are two different types of normals, one with the G or the Y axis pointing in one direction, and one where it points the opposite direction. Basically, these are just inverted versions of each other, and different programs use different choices between those two normal types. And Substance Painter uses it opposite of what ZBrush does, so I have to tell it to flip the G in order for this normal map to work for it. All right. Create all maps. Snail Knight. I'll put this my assets. Let's snail body. Although I'll probably rename it its own special way, whatever that's going to wind up being. Maps export. See what those look like here. There's the shell. That's assuming that's those are the wrinkles at the back of the tail where the shell meets it. That's the neck. That's the bottom of the tail. Those are the eye stalks down there. So that's the normal map for it. All right. I'm going to turn these off and turn on the fabric layers. Here we go. And I can just use the exact same settings. Create all maps. Fabric. I said add a bunch of other stuff to the name. And there's the fabric with all those sculpted bits. I'm going to rename these just to get rid of all the extra stuff. Sometimes Substance Painter has this issue. Oh, still finishing stuff, I guess. You done now? Yes. Sometimes Substance Painter has an issue with really long names. So I'm just going to get rid of everything on here except for fabric, disp, fabric, normal, snail body, disp, snail body, normal. That should be short enough I don't have to worry about it. Next, I'm going to open up Substance Sampler, Adobe Substance Sampler 3D, or Substance 3D Sampler, whatever it's called. I made this image right here, which I'm going to use for his skin. Start off basically just noise, brought into Leonardo AI in order to turn it into something a bit more interesting with some tiling properties. I'm going to use this as his skin. So I'm going to create new, drag this over here. Image to material, import. It's going to start trying to figure out what to do with this image, and I'm going to turn this into an organic material first and make it shiny. And just so we can see what that looks like, if I increase the tiling a whole bunch, do something kind of like that. But this should be less obvious once it's on the body. There are some obvious bits of the tile. I'll see how it looks. I may have to do some adjustments. I also want to put a normal height adjustment on here. I'm going to expose this parameter so I'll be able to see that in Substance Painter and bring this down a bit. But I can adjust it further once it's on the body with this on there. Save this. The previous project. Ignore that. Snail Night. Snail Night. Assets. Just make sure I name this. Is there an easy way to do that? I forget. Export. Snail skin. Again, put that in the right folder. And next, I'm just going to export an FBX of this for Substance Painter. FBX. All right. Next video, I'll bring this into Substance Painter.